Good evening, everyone. It is 6:15 today, Tuesday, January 3rd, and it's time to begin the Community Development Committee meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Rivera,
Present.
Alderman Moisio. I'm here. Alderman Florian. Present. Alderman Hayes.
Present.
Alderman Turner.
Present.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 5th, 2022 regular meeting?
Moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by Alderman Florian, seconded by Alderman Hayes. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, next item is audience time. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak regarding anything that is on the Community Development Committee meeting? Yes, please. Step forward and state your name, please.
Good evening, Council. Ray Allen, that is community member. I want to address the ordinance about the wall and asking to hold that over. This district has $30.9 million. They can fix that wall now.
Hold on, Mr. Rayan, hold on.
I think your mic's on.
Turn the mic on, man. I don't think it's on.
The second one. Okay, my name is Rayon Edwards, community member. I wanted to address old business. We're talking about the marking wall, the fence over there at Lincoln Center. That wall has been at that building for God knows forever. It's a lot of history with that wall. And we are here tonight to ask y'all, what are we holding it over for? This is what the district is asking. They just put out a post that they have $30.9 million that they need to figure out what to do with it. That money can be used to fix that wall. That wall needs to be fixed. So holding it over is basically telling those residents on Sheridan Road that y'all don't even really care. And I think that's the intentions, to make them feel like nobody caring, for them to get frustrated and irritated and then just say do away with it. Well, I hope y'all know that piece of wall means something to the city, to a lot of us that went to these schools. You know what I mean? And a lot of that administration that want to tear it down, they're not from here. So they don't know the importance about this city. So I really hope y'all consider, let's go ahead and do away with this so y'all can start taking care of other business in the city instead of holding something over as this small all the way to February. It makes no sense. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please step forward and state your name.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Anita Hanna, and I am here to not so much talk about the wall, because I am the petitioner of the historic preservation application. But I am here to talk about a minor glitch in the process. I learned of this committee meeting and that it was going to be on the agenda for discussion here by accident. No one notified me of anything that this was going to happen. Furthermore, I found out.
Yeah, your mic just cut off.
Yeah.
But there's no recording of it.
Sorry.
You have the worst audio in the world.
You think we can get this straight for one meeting? I'm sorry, Miss Anita.
Try it, Miss Anita.
I hear you. So,
Testing?
Sounds good.
all right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Anyway, I was talking about the process, and because I am the petitioner, you would think that I would get notice of some sort that this was going to be on the agenda for anything, but I did not, and so actually. I just want to talk about, the process and the lack of getting in touch with me to know this, okay? But aside from that, I am still a proponent of keeping the wall intact where it is, and I also believe that that because the district has the money that came from the damage to the wall by the individual auto accidents and insurances, we have that money, and it was spoke to earlier regarding the disrepair of the wall and how agitated the community along Sheridan Road will get because the wall is in disrepair, and this is what they have to look at. And I don't know why it was approved for the vote to be held off until February, is what I'm told officially. I have no clue because no one has said anything to me, right? But I believe that we can get that wall repaired in a timely manner so as to please, if you will, the constituents along Sheridan Road until we get done with the process, whether it's going to be a preservation designation or not, right? But in the meantime, the wall can be repaired, and it should be repaired, okay? And so I don't know how or what that does in terms of the vote from the city council, but I just want to express this as well. Either way that it goes, whatever decision that is made to preserve it historically or not, I'm okay with it, okay, because I've done my part, okay? But there's really no need for the vote to be held over that long, and we have the money to repair that wall, and so however you all and whatever you all decide, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, you mentioned that it's not working now? What? That's, huh? Lights on. Turn it off.
Speak loudly.
Yeah, I can speak very loudly.
Speak right into it. Can you hear Mr. Hill?
Hello?
Nothing?
Hello, hello.
You hear Rivera?
Testing, testing.
Here, you can use.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah, you mentioned that you found out about this meeting and your petition was on the agenda by accident. How did you find out about it?
I happen to have gotten a text by someone that I can tell you afterwards.
No, it's not important. I just
Okay,
general.
but I got it from
Somebody
someone
told you.
from here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm not understanding that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Noel, should she have been informed about this as the person who brought this forward?
Ms. Hannah was at the Historic Preservation Commission meeting where the Historic Preservation Commission approved the landmarking, and both parties, the school district and the petitioner, were notified at that meeting of the date for the Community Development Committee last meeting when it was held over.
Really?
Oh.
So we talked at that meeting about what the date would be that it would go forward.
Okay, Noel, I respectfully hear what you're saying. However, that's been a while ago,
It has been a while, yes.
and I would think that that a notice or a phone call or a text or something would have followed up with that. So I did not know, ma'am. Thank
Okay. Yes, Alderman Mozio?
Things on this. That building has been there for a while. Councilor Weiss, in our historical preservation ordinance, if something is deemed historical, is that in perpetuity? Can ever be switched, can be changed? My question is because at some point, the school district may want to sell that property. It's similar to that water tower we got down on the lakefront. We hold up lakefront development because we have an historical water tower. Well, some people think it's historical. You talk to people that don't have a pension from Johnson Motors anymore, they want nothing Johnson Motors in this town ever again. So that's controversial. But when we hold up, a developer came in, said, I want to buy the land down in the lakefront, but I got to take the water town. We say, you can't. We're going to leave it that because of a water tower? So that's the problem with historical preservation. Sometimes it gets in the way of development, of progress. There are some things that need to be historically preserved. I get that. I get that. I just don't, I'm going to have to get a little more research. What's the historical significance of that wall? That was a all-girls Catholic school. In fact, Kelly, aren't you a graduate of that school?
1972.
Thank you. It was a private Catholic girls' school. I don't know. The district sometime may want to sell that property. It's probably worth more as a piece of property than it is as a building, because that building is old as all get out. It's been chopped up 1,000 times. I don't know. I'm just trying to forecast.
And
Get back to my original question, Mr. Weiss. Can it ever be undone? I guess is my question.
and if I may interject, my application only included the wall only. It had nothing whatsoever to do with that entire property. There's no intention that I have to put any kind of historical designation on that building and that property aside from the wall that is north and south that along Sheridan Road there in front of Lincoln Center.
I mean, that like I'd have to figure out what the historical impact of it was, and if it can't ever be undone, that's something to think about. If you're stuck with that wall, if you sell it, or you can't sell it because the wall has to stay there, I mean, that's something to think about.
But are we, sorry to interrupt, but are we talking about changing what the historical preservation did, or is that already a done deal? Like, I guess I'm confused.
The Preservation Committee, just again, like any committee we have, Alderman, is just a filter. Their recommendation was to historically preserve it. We don't, that's just a recommendation for us to consider.
So we have the final say on
Yes.
that? Okay.
As in anything. Our committees are just filters. As this one.
And at this point, I do know that there is preservation protection on the wall at this point.
Nothing can be done
While the application is in process.
Right, and that is why I don't understand why there has been a request for the city council to postpone the vote. Either it will be or it won't be. Either way. I have no idea why
Okay,
it
thank you,
was-
Ms. Hannah. I think we should proceed. unless,
Mr. Weiss, do we have an idea, or is that too much to look into right now, Alderman?
No, I mean, the local designation of historic landmarks pursuant to the city's home rule power is something that was done by ordinance and can be undone by ordinance. But it is a procedure that the city has adopted that says that we are going to require a higher level of scrutiny as to the appropriateness when someone wants to modify anything, whether it be a building, a site that has been designated for historic preservation. But that can all be removed. It is, I do not believe, and Noel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe that the ordinance requires the recording of a covenant. Okay. But that covenant is enforceable by the city. And so really, in the end, it is the city's decision whether to enforce these regulations, whether to enforce the covenant. If those regulations were applied to this, it would be more onerous and difficult to modify or remove the wall. But it's not like there would be some regulation that a private citizen could then sue to basically exercise the rights under the covenant.
So down the line, school district decides they want to sell it, someone comes in and say, we want the property, but we don't want the wall. They could come to the city and say, can we undo this?
I mean, it adds an extra layer of review. It makes it more onerous, which is often the goal of historic preservation, to add some barriers for reconsideration in time.
Thank you, Councilor.
yes, Alderman?
I know that we request to hold it over. Is there, but we didn't get a reason why the school district wants to hold it over? Held it over once. What is the rationale that the school district has to hold it over again?
We have a representation from the school district, we want to hear that.
Yeah, and just a reminder, we are here from the audience, so this is all within the chair's discretion. We can either move on to the actual item and discuss it, or we can continue on as we've been doing right now.
Well, I would like to just get one question answered. Alderman Kirkwoods? Is there someone here from the school district?
Good evening, members of the commission. Can you hear me? Thank you so much. My name is Catherine Vanderbrook. I'm general counsel for the school district. I'd be happy to answer the question to the best of my knowledge and understanding. But Mr. Alajakis and I also did want to participate in comment before you go into full deliberation, if we may. But in answer to the question, our understanding for the reason that that was asked initially was the superintendent of the district was hoping she could be here to address the commission before you took action, and she was not able to be here this evening. So that was the request, but we do understand and respect it is up to this committee as to whether to continue this matter going forward or not, and we're prepared to work with you the way that you decide this evening.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Couldn't someone else have come in her place, or couldn't she have have you read what it is she wanted us to hear, or, I mean...
Mr. Alajakis and I are here to speak to the board.
So one of you can read whatever it is
We don't have a written statement from her.
Okay.
But we are prepared to speak, and we were prepared to participate in the public comment portion for your consideration.
Well, at this time, though, I mean, we've heard why it's being held over. That was the question. I think we should move on to the actual item and proceed with the meeting, or else we can discuss this pretty much all night long. So,
it sounds like it's been asked to be held over. We hold over other matters, and many people are quick to say, why rush? It does sound like there is at least some element of people wanting to educate themselves on exactly what's going on. The questions I'm hearing right now, just for everyone's reference, maybe they can be prepared if it is held over, is how much of, give us some history on the wall. Tell us how much of the wall is original. tell us the cost to repair the wall, tell us what the plans are if the wall is in fact torn down, and explain, I think, so that everybody can understand what the historic significance is of the wall. And that's not to diminish the significance of the wall by any stretch. I think it's just beneficial for everyone to hear and everyone who's watching the meeting to be able to hear these things. So I don't want to delay anything any longer than is absolutely necessary. You hear me say that all the time. If it's held over for one meeting or it's held over for two meetings, I don't particularly care. But it sounds like a request has been made. It's not an unreasonable request, and I think we can honor it.
And this is not time sensitive either.
Yeah.
I agree, Alderman Hayes. It's not
Yeah.
time sensitive.
Motion to hold it over.
Yes.
2 weeks from now, we do have a few points of procedure here. If they would like to, if the school district would like to provide public comment, they should be given the opportunity to provide public comment. And this was held over pursuant to the city council's rules that allow any member to hold over. This is actually different. We would be continuing it to a certain set time. This isn't the automatic holdover. So if there is a motion to delay consideration of this, the appropriate motion would be
To continue it.
continue to a specific date.
Okay, so,
What we have
okay, first of all, would you like to make a comment at this time?
Yes, we would.
Okay?
Okay. So I'm going to start again. I am Kathy Vanderbrook. I am the General Counsel for the Waukegan Public School District. I'd like to call the committee members' attention in particular to a document that is in your packet, which is the 7 review criteria that is from your ordinance itself. In particular, when we look at that criteria, there are 2 different criteria that are supposed to be met before landmark status can be provided. The first criteria speaks to the structure, quote, possessing, not potentially possessing, but possessing the integrity of design, workmanship, materials, location, setting, and feeling, and then meeting one of 7 criteria. The report out of the hearing by your Preservation Historic Commission speaks only to the second part of the test. The other evidence that you have in the packet before you from an architect is that the wall is in a severe state of disrepair. It does not meet the integrity standard, which is the first part of the test that is to be met before something should be landmarked. And if you proceed into the 4 criteria that the Preservation Commission brought forward to you, the first one speaks to the historic value of this, which Commission members are already questioning. What is the historic value? The report just says there's a historic value. And remember, it is the historic value of the wall. It's not the historic value of the property as a whole, because the property as a whole is not being landmarked. It's not the historic value of Holy Child School or the buildings. They're not being landmarked. It is solely the wall that is before you. And there is no finding from the commission as to its historic value to the heritage or culture of Waukegan. There is no indication in your packets or the hearing information that the wall is associated either with Mr. Kirk or Thomas Jebb, who are the historical persons, not entities, persons, that the second criteria apply to. The earliest evidence in the material presented to you is a photo dated of 1899, and both of those gentlemen moved out of Waukegan or away from that property before 1899 based on the evidence that has been presented. Is the wall representative of distinguishing characteristics of architectural inherently valuable? The only evidence before you from an architect is that there's no architectural significance to this. The commission made a conclusory statement that it is architecturally significant, but gave no evidence to support why. Is it in a unique location? Has it been there a long time? Yes, it has. The district is not going to contest that. However, we go back to it does not meet the first test. in integrity of workmanship, integrity of materials, integrity of design. I cannot, as the district, answer those questions as to those integrity pieces, workmanship. I don't have the qualifications for that, but that's not our job. That's the job of the commission to bring that forward in the petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Nick Alazakis. I'm the Director of Communications and Chief of Staff of the district. First of all, appreciate you guys giving us time this evening to address this. Happy New Year to all the council members, staff as well. What I wanted to discuss was, this came up during the Historical Preservation Commission as well, and had been asked what our Board of Education's kind of stance was this as the owners of the property officially. And there is a resolution that the board passed in October of 2022 that should be in your packets and addresses this. I don't want to read the whole packet or the whole resolution. I know you guys have other pressing issues this evening to get to in a meeting starting soon. But there are some points I did want to kind of bring to the committee's attention. One, that the board, if you go through the resolution, you'll see the board was not consulted prior to the landmark application having been submitted, and it was not approved by the board. So the board did not approve the submission of this application. Now the board does have toward the end, I just kind of want to get to some of the therefores. So there's 4 main points that the Board of Education approved by a 5-0 vote in October. The first being that we as a Board of Education, A, recognize the significance that the Lincoln Center wall holds for some individuals in the community considering its age. B, the Board of Education respects the authority of the Historic Preservation Commission as well as the City Council in regard to reviewing and voting upon historical landmark applications. And C, believe that decisions about the future buildings, schools, and properties owned by Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 should lie within the school district. Point number 2 is there are future implications that the board thinks should be considered if a portion of our property is landmarked. Those include redirection of present and future funds from educational initiatives and/or capital projects that benefit students and staff. That's more directly in schools. 2, the restriction of district autonomy in determining the full use of district property. 3rd, the increase in time and costs associated with any future use of the property by the district when it involves the wall. And the 4th, probable decrease in property value arising out of its landmark status and the accompanying restriction on the property use by current and future owners. The 3rd part that the Board of Education and therefore is we do not as a board support the landmark application, and the 4th being this resolution does not address the district's intended future plans of the wall. I know that question was asked. That has not yet been officially determined by the Board of Education. Last thing, and I apologize, I didn't know I had 3 minutes. I didn't.
Unfortunately, there was some confusion at the time. During public comment, we have a 3-minute limit. And so the chair can engage questions from the audience.
At this time, I would like to proceed. I know, Ms. Hannah, you have one question, please. One comment. Okay. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, there being no more further comments, please, let's proceed.
We have to make a motion to, what was the motions to?
The motion is to continue to the February meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded, but so what date is the committee meeting?
I believe it's the 2nd, 3rd?
First Monday, right?
First Monday. 6th.
6th.
Okay, February 6th meeting. All right, can I have a second on that, please?
Tom Hayes.
Aye.
Motion by Alderman Mosio.
Hayes second.
Hayes second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Alderman Turner?
Aye.
Alderman Florian?
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, now moving on to old business. Item A, we have an ordinance approving zoning calendar number 2688. Oh, did I say old business? Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so we are moving on to new business because we just finished old business. So number 4, new business, ordinance approving zoning calendar number 2688 and text amendment to section 4.4-2, parentheses 4, of the City of Waukegan zoning ordinance, removing paragraph I, outdoor dining establishments, from the permitted temporary uses list. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Question for this.
Question?
It was explained that this is just a text amendment. This is not, what are we doing here now?
Yep.
I was confused by the staff Bridges on what we're exactly doing here.
So the intention is to bring before you at some point in the future amended language that puts outdoor dining under licensing.
This is not actually the outdoor dining license. This is just removing a text statement from
The only current reference to outdoor dining is in the zoning ordinance, this one little 3-word statement that classifies it as a temporary use, permitted temporary use. And those temporary uses in the zoning ordinance are limited to a 6-month period. So the intention is to take it out of the zoning
Completely.
ordinance, make it a licensing ordinance, that would be a separate piece that has to be.
So some of those points we will, Chief Staff Bridges says he wants our input on the outdoor dining.
This isn't it, though. Yeah, this, yeah.
That we know, it's just a text.
Yeah.
This is just cleaning it up.
Okay.
It's just the language.
Thank you.
This is preparing the zoning ordinance for the future. I believe it will be relatively soon as a separate ordinance that falls under licensing jurisdiction.
All right, do I have a first and a second?
Yeah, already.
All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Florian?
Aye.
Alderman Hayes?
Aye.
Alderman Turner?
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo?
Aye.
Chairman Rivera?
Aye, thank you. Item B, under new business, ordinance approving zoning calendar number 2689, a conditional use permit for an educational institution in the O/I-I district with the temporary use of 2 28 by 70 modular classroom units at 621 Belvedere Road.
So moved.
Any questions to the motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Florian?
Aye.
Alderman Hayes?
Aye.
Alderman Turner?
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo?
Aye.
Chairman Rivera?
Aye, thank you. Item C, an ordinance creating a Class C-1 retail package sales and gasoline sales liquor license for Nares Venture LLC, located at 3411 Delaney Road.
So
May I-
moved.
Second.
Any questions to the motion? Yes, Alderman Florian?
So I'm confused about this license. So do we have other gas stations that have C1?
The licensing folks are coming up to speak.
Okay. Hello, licensing folks.
Good evening, committee members. Yes, we have 7 in total that were grandfathered into receiving the C1 class license.
Okay, when you say grandfathered, how long ago?
2018, I believe, was the last time we updated the list.
Okay, and have we had any other instances where new owners have taken over one of those?
No. So we had received this application, and we did give our advisement to the customer that the potential C1 license could be denied. They exercised their right to proceed forward with the application to bring it before the committee and council.
Okay. This is in my ward. It's right down the street from my house. I have picked up trash along the road many times, and I can't tell you how many of those little, you know, the airplane bottles of liquor. I've picked up hundreds of those. Someone is going in there, doing their, drinking their little, and pitching it out their window. I mean, it was the same brand. It was just, anyway, I think those should be banned. I know we probably can't do that, but, because that just, to me, that just encourages people to drink in their vehicle, which is not supposed to happen. I don't have a problem with them having beer and wine, but I'm not a real big fan of us having liquor licenses in the gas stations. I mean, this is, we have way too much going on in the city, and anyway, so is there a way we can just approve a lower class license for them, or is it this or nothing?
Yes, I believe we had brought the F1 license to them and presented that to them and advised them that they should apply for that. But we do have a representative from their party to speak, I believe.
Sean, if this license isn't approved, they just have to reapply for the F1, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Sean.
All right.
I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I just.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is there a process when we grandfather in, is there certain criteria that has to be met in order to approve the carryover of a license? Like ownership has to stay the same, or?
Yeah, ownership should stay the same because ownership, so we received this application for the renewal in April of this year, but it had a new business owner and a new business name, so we did not proceed with processing it. They finally completed their application on August 3rd, and we got their final approval for, got some sort of final approval. I'm reading my notes here.
Stinks when you can't read your own handwriting, isn't it?
No, the printer ran out. We were waiting for the full approval in regards to the entire application to submit it before the committee. That's what the approval meant. So we had multiple corrections with the application between August and the present. So when we got everything in its wholeness, we presented it to you guys at the request of the applicant.
So,
Alderman Hayes, I think I can actually clarify your specific question. And thank you to Madam Clerk for bringing this ordinance, which predates my time with the city. In Ordinance 18046, there was the creation of the C1 subclass, which allows certain gas stations to sell alcoholic liquor, not just beer and wine. And it did set aside these 7 C1 licenses, included the following sentence, which I think gets to the heart of the matter. The clerk and the liquor commissioner are further prohibited from allowing the owners of any Class C1 license to transfer the same to a different owner, provided that the sale of stock or membership interest to the corporate owner shall not be considered a transfer. So if there was merger or acquisition, that would be different. But a change in ownership of an existing C1, at least based on the language of this ordinance, which could be overruled by another ordinance, is contemplated that would not be allowed under the grandfather provision.
And I think that's really helpful and goes to the intent and what was going on at the time that this was enacted. And in order to honor that, it seems like, I mean, those are pretty strong and pretty clear words. So it seems to me that the idea was to not have any more C1 licenses.
Correct.
And start to phase them out potentially as we go. And this is just by the laws of attrition, one instance where it would be phased out. So if the intent of the city council at the time that the ordinance was adopted was to prohibit the additional C1 licenses from going forward, outside of a transfer of that business, then I think we should stick with the intent of the ordinance at the time.
Alderman Florian.
Can I ask, so have they been selling liquor this whole time?
So they've had a liquor license since 2016. I believe they have refrained selling liquor license because their liquor license expired as of April 30th of this year.
I meant to go in there the other day and look before this meeting, and I forgot to do it because I'm curious when did they applied in April?
Yeah, but it's been going on since April, right?
But they
That's
should
what
have
I'm wondering, though. Have they stopped selling it since April? And no one's here. You thought they were here, but they're not here.
They were asked to be present, and I don't think that they are.
Okay, well,
Okay, yes.
This won't be voted on tonight, so we can move this along, get it to council, and then get our research and go
Correct.
from there, correct?
Can I make one final comment?
Yes.
I think, sorry, not to belabor the point, but it seems to me that we have enough places in the city that sell liquor, and if the intent of the city council at the time was to phase out gas stations selling liquor, then I think when you kind of weigh those two, then there's no reason to carry on with a C1 license at this particular establishment, especially since our predecessors made that decision and clearly adopted very clear language. So I would just say, it seems to me like if we're going to keep heading in the direction that was the intent of the ordinance, then we should refrain from granting a C1 license. I know we're not voting on it tonight, but Stu, thank you for pulling up the language.
yes. Okay. Roll call?
Wait, do I have a motion?
Yep.
All right, and so we need a roll call, please.
No.
No.
Aye.
Just aye, moving to council.
No. Okay, item D, a resolution approving a ground lease and a development and host community agreement for the construction, development, and operation of the temporary by American Place and the American Place Casino. And I believe we have a presentation.
I'll make
And here comes our presenter.
Sounds like it works. Okay. So, thank you, everyone. I was going to give a brief presentation so we can take you through these final approval documents for the American Place Casino. I'm going to tell you where we started, how we got here, and what we're doing tonight. History to date, way back in July of 2019, based on the passage of an amendment to the Gambling Act, the city issued a request for proposals and qualifications for operators for a municipal casino for the city of Waukegan. City received, I believe, 5 proposals, 4 of which made it through the public hearing process. There was a public hearing that considered the applications, all of which included basically bids to purchase the property. We'll talk a little bit about why Full Houses was slightly different. The city certified 3 of those proposers to go down to Springfield to be considered by the Illinois Gaming Board. That process took approximately 2 years. In December of 2021, the Illinois Gaming Board designated Full House Resorts of Las Vegas, a publicly traded company, as preliminarily suitable to operate a casino. That was the first step where basically the IGB said that this is the company that we've determined has met all the criteria, has submitted the best proposal for the state of Illinois, for the city of Waukegan, and in general for the IGB's criteria. Over the past year, we've been working with Full House. In March of 2022, the City Council approved a temporary construction easement and site plan approval ordinance. This allowed Full House to begin construction on the Fountain Square property. Tonight, I'm going to be briefly talking about the ground lease for the city property. Full House also acquired a 10-acre parcel directly to the north. Together, it's about 40 acres. And that is the area on which the temporary, the permanent, and future phases of the casino will be developed. In May of 2022, we adopted a memorandum of key terms. This was a very detailed document. It was about 12 pages long, and it set forth the outline for everything that we've been doing ever since. It talked about the terms under which the Full House
would enter into a ground lease. It talked about how the operational requirements that Full House would have to engage in. And we have been moving forward since then in fleshing this out. This is a pretty significant real estate transaction. It is a development, most development agreements when a project are being built are for a few years. A project may take 1 or 2 years to build, maybe 3 or 4. This is a project that could take 20 years to build out all the way in future. Right now, we think of probably about 7 to 8 for the plan phases, but this could become a full entertainment complex. So what we wanted to do was to set up a framework that would allow this project to be built in a way that protected the city, its residents, and also allowed Full House to have clarity and a vision of how it can proceed when getting approvals from the city. During the summer through the fall, the temporary was being constructed. If you've been out by Full House, you see a very large structure, a sprung structure that went up as soon as basically they could get access to concrete and footings. Ever since that was put up, the parking lots were installed, stormwater drainage, and they've been building the inside out ever since. In December, we had to make some code amendments to create the correct liquor licenses that would cover this very unique property. Over the past month through January, Full House will be undergoing final inspections and licensing with the IGB. It's a very involved process. There are representatives here tonight from the IGB, both their attorneys and then also operations that can talk to you about like the final steps. But really the interesting thing about the gaming license is that the state gambling license is the last thing. They basically have to invest in everything. They had to get a certificate of occupancy from us. They had to satisfy all of our codes. They had to satisfy Lake County, stormwater, all those things. And then the last kind of piece that falls into place is their gaming license. Tonight, we are approving the final documents to allow them to basically commence operations. And I apologize that the text on this is so small, so I will read it out as best as I can. The final approval documents are a ground lease. The ground lease governs the landlord-tenant relationship between the city and Full House for the city-owned parcel. It sets rent terms, and it includes a $30 million purchase option. This purchase option was something that was included in Full House's original proposal. They had proposed to lease the property for 99 years, but at any time they could give us a one-time payment of $30 million. The city, when we looked at this and analyzed, this was, even if the $30 million payment were made immediately, it would be far more lucrative than any of the other proposals that were actually provided by the other developers who were certified. The Development and Host Community Agreement is a separate agreement. This is the agreement that basically talks about how the casino is going to be built. It talks about what codes they need to comply with. It talks about the process to come in, to get approvals. And then it also memorializes some of Full House's long-term commitments, both to the city and the community. The ground lease, as I said, it's for the 31.7 acre parcel that belongs to the city right now. It's commonly known as 600 Lakehurst Road. It's a triple net ground lease. So what a ground lease means is that we're giving them the dirt. They can build what they want on it, subject to our approval. And then beyond that, they're responsible for paying taxes and assessments, paying utilities, for insuring the property. As landlord, we basically have very few responsibilities to them. Everything is on the tenant at that point. The term is a 99-year lease or until the purchase option is exercised. The rent every year is going to be the greater of two numbers, either $3 million or 2.5% of their adjusted gross receipts generated by the casino. Adjusted gross receipts is a term that the gaming industry uses to basically talk about the money that they bring in minus, I think, like they get credits for comps, I think. And so the city will be never getting less than $3 million and maybe getting more during the term of the ground lease. The first year of operations, it will be paid in installments monthly. Thereafter, it will be quarterly. And then if there's any amount that is above the $3 million, there's an annual true-up at the end. The purchase option, as I mentioned, $30 million one-time payment. We had first negotiated with them that they would delay the exercise of the purchase option until the permanent was constructed. And they said, well, we have a specific situation that we might need to sell it earlier. And we said, we don't like that. And they said, well, what if we just keep paying you the rent anyway? And we said, we like that. And so the deal is that in certain situations, they will be able to exercise the purchase option early, but Full House will continue to pay on top of the $30 million the annual minimum rent until the permanent is open. And the reason that they need to do that is a complicated financing tool that's used in the casino industry, which is a sale and leaseback, where basically another entity would come, basically purchase a property and then lease it back to Full House. I'm not smart enough to explain that myself. I understand it, but not to put it into plain terms, so I'd throw that over to their attorneys if you really want to know more about that. The use of the property, it can only be used as designated in the Development Host Community Agreement. It can only be used as a casino, could not be sold to some other party for some other use, basically denying the citizens of Waukegan the revenue and the benefit of this development that they were promised. Okay, Development and Host Community Agreement. What this does is it sets out what's going to happen in the different phases. We've deemed the temporary as phase 0. Phase 1 is the permanent casino, approximately 325,000 square foot permanent facility, which has right now, after inflation, a price tag of about $500 million. There will be a boutique hotel, 20-room high roller hotel that is to be included, and an entertainment venue. If those three elements are not opened simultaneously, there is a day-for-day penalty, which is because we want to ensure that one of the reasons that Full House was chosen was because it wasn't bringing a glorified gaming parlor to the community. It was bringing a very high-class destination that could bring in folks from not only from the North Shore, but from Wisconsin and even from around the country. And so we want to ensure that all those amenities are there. We want to ensure that the entertainment venue is there. There are then phase 2 would be a 150-room hotel, or if other hotels may have developed around them by that time, they have the opportunity to invest $50 million in an alternate amenity or kind of project that would also need to be approved by the Illinois Gaming Board. We have some project milestones. The temporary casino, I had put in that it was opening late January. That's actually not their words. Basically, the Full House has some work to do still with the Illinois Gaming Board, but their work with the city with regard to inspections, approvals is really ending. So now it's kind of on them to work with the state. The permanent casino would be opening up no later than 36 months after the opening of the temporary casino. So in about 3 years from now, Full House is required by statute to open up the main facility. 150-room hotel would be commencing construction within 5 years of the temporary opening. The construction of the project would be subject to all the licenses and codes of the village. They're not getting any special breaks or favors on that with regard to the standards that they have to build to. The construction of public improvements, we have a big section about if they're building sewers, if they're building roads, if they're building water lines, the standards that they need to do those to, the standards by which we would judge if they were constructed appropriately, and how the city would take ownership. Here are the kind of the meat, though, of the ongoing obligations. The developer, through both its commitments to the Illinois Gaming Board and to the city, has promised the following. First off, it's going to give a $150,000 project commencement impact payment. This is a payment to the city to deal with police overtime, EMS responses, extra traffic. This is something that we're anticipating that there's going to be a lot of excitement when the temporary opens. We want to make sure that the taxpayers are not on the hook for any additional cost that are actually going to be incurred by the city. Full House, as part of their proposal to the Illinois Gaming Board and to the city, has proposed a $500,000 annual community benefit contribution. Now, I actually put parentheses contributions because they may actually be doing an aggregate of a number of different contributions to different organizations within kind of the greater Waukegan community. And then finally, real estate tax appeals. This project is in a TIF, and we want to make sure that the value of this property is not undercut through basically appealing every year over and over. So we've put in some backstops for that. Full House is not allowed to appeal their taxes during the operation of the temporary. And if they do appeal their property tax assessment during the operation, first few years of operation through 2030, or tax year 2030, they must, even if they get their assessed value lowered down, there's a minimum level that they must pay to the city. So the city is going to get its property taxes on this. The TIF is going to be funded. A few additional developer commitments. They must satisfy the Illinois Gaming Board standards for gaming practices. That's not surprising. They must train their employees in both state gambling and liquor regulations. They must pay all city licenses and permit fees. They must provide accessible gaming facilities. They must work to meet their 1,800 employee goal at the when the permanent casino opens up. They make commitments to the IGB to work with contractors and not only to employ contractors in construction, but also to work with contractors long-term from historically disadvantaged populations, and then also work with local residents and local businesses. They've also been asked to establish and maintain communications with the Genesee Theater so as to avoid conflicts of bookings and not to create too much cannibalization between the two entertainment venues. So, to the committee, are there any questions? As I mentioned, we have representatives from Full House here tonight as well.
I think this would be a question for you, Stu. I know the one casino in Peoria, I don't know if you've ever been down there, but they had a location on the river. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, and they decided it was no longer really feasible to operate there, so they moved it over to the other side of the river. So if something like that were to ever happen with this, like once we do the sale, do we have any say in what happens to the property, or is that completely up to Full House? Like, I know the lease is one thing, but the sale is another.
Right. So there are a few things that would prevent that happening, and actually there's two locations, I think, in Illinois. I think Aurora may be doing the same thing.
Okay.
That they're moving their kind of their first generation old casinos, which were in their downtowns, to closer to the freeway. In this case, you have a location that is probably about as freeway accessible as any location is in Waukegan. Two, the city's zoning code prohibits casinos in any other zoning district. Am I correct, Noel? You're correct. Yes. So they couldn't go and operate anyplace else. Plus, number three, they can't move without the Illinois Gaming Board's approval, and they can't move out of the city because the license was created specifically for Waukegan. So those are the controls there. And there are also controls in the Development Host Community Agreement that talks about not ceasing operations, abandoning, and things like that do give us additional protections.
Okay, thank you.
This one's for you as well, Stu, and I think it goes to Alderman Florian's question. What restrictions or oversight does the City Council have in the event that they exercise the option, they purchase the land, and then 5 years down the road they want to sell a casino or do something else?
Right.
So would it come back before us? Does it have to remain as a casino? Like what kind of?
Yes, it has to remain as a casino. The issue of whether they could sell the property. Sorry, I was having trouble hearing myself think. the issue of could they sell the property, or could they sell the actual casino itself? They cannot do that. So it still has to be full FHR Illinois LLC. It has to be that operator. That is the licensed operator from the IGB. They cannot change that without our approval. Now, could management and operations be acquired, by another company? Yes. But are they locked into this site? Yes. And do they need, and under the ground lease, if they haven't exercised the purchase option, they have to give it back if the ground lease is still good and they've ceased casino operations.
And then my last question was just with respect to the rent, in the event that the purchase option is exercised. The rent, so we get the money for the purchase, the rent is still paid until the opening of the permanent phase.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Now, and I do want to emphasize, and this is something that Don Schultz also talked about, was that in addition to the rent, most other communities do not get rent from their casinos. They're developed on privately owned properties. Rivers and Des Plaines was a privately owned property. The Chicago Valley site the money is going to go to the Tribune Corporation or whoever owns that property. Waukegan's a little bit unique because we're actually getting rent, plus the city will be getting tax revenue. And the tax revenue comes from the admissions tax, which is kind of referred to as a head tax, $1 per person who walks into the casino, and then also a percentage of the adjusted gross revenue that just goes to cities by default. That amount under law is split between Lake County, Park City, and Beach Park. Now I can't remember the exact split, but it's
North Chicago and Park
City.
City.
North Chicago. We get the majority of it though. So even after the $30 million, even after the permanent is open, there will be gaming taxes that come in, property taxes that will accrue to the city, and then also food and beverage, hotel. So that's not the end of the story. That was a long answer to a short question. I apologize.
Good answers. Thank you for that.
I'm so sorry. I have two more questions. So we have hotels in that area already, right? Like
Yes.
they're already built, and some of them I think went there knowing that there was a chance someday there might be a casino. So do we have any way of, I know the boutique hotel is not going to compete with what we already have because it's going to be completely different and high class. Do we have a way of changing their plan to build their 150-room hotel if the hotels around there are meeting the need? I guess is what I want to say.
So the way that their arrangement with the IGB is that they are committed to investing $50 million into this property within 5 years of completing the permit.
One way or another?
One way or the other.
Okay.
They have said that they, right now, are planning on a 150-room, 3-star hotel because they think that that is going to generate the most gaming revenue and the most visits. If they don't believe that that's going to generate the most revenue, they will probably decide to put it into some other way of investing in the casino.
Okay.
I think that we do have site plan approval. We have certain things like that. There's a recognition that we do not know basically what the future is going to hold in this, so we are at least leaving some options open on phase 2.
Okay. And then my last question, I promise. So I was in favor of us trying to get the lease kind of in perpetuity because I felt like that in the long run might be a better option for us.
Right.
Can you explain why we ended up with the 3-year? I mean, I know we've talked about it personally, but just so the community knows.
Right. So, if we could hold on to this property for 99 years, and if this casino was open up for 99 years, and we could get 2.5% of their winnings for the next, just short of a century, that would be an unbelievable deal. They never offered that deal. That was, when you look back at October 2019, basically the offer they gave on the ground lease was contingent upon having a purchase option exercisable at any time for $30 million. So that you know, basically in the end, for us to ask for that would be risking starting the process over again. And I think that was something that when discussed with the alderman, it was determined that this was still a good deal for us.
And we purchased the property for $7 million? Okay. And we're gonna get 3 years of rent, and then we're gonna get $30 million theoretically at.
When they buy it. Are there any other questions? All right. Stuart?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm done.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have a motion? No. May I have a motion for this, please?
So moved.
All right. Motion by Alderman Florian, seconded by Alderman Turner. Can we have a roll call, please?
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Hayes.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo. Chairman Rivera.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, and we now will proceed to reports, communications, and information. I will need a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing purchase of real estate property pursuant to 5 ILSC 120-2 parentheses C's parentheses 5.
Motion?
Motion by Alderman
Second.
Turner, seconded by Alderman Florian. Roll call?
Oh, sorry, forgot that part. Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Hayes.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo. Chairman Rivera.
Aye. Thank you.
After a brief executive session of the Community Development Committee, we will come back from the committee and convene the city council.
One of my patients is a.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
That mic is dying, so they recommended that you use this one tonight.
Test 1 2.
Testing, testing.
We talked about that.
I appreciate it.
Test 1 2.
Okay, if I could please have a motion to call the meeting to order.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Florian, seconded by Alderman Hayes to reconvene the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now, may I have a motion to conclude and adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded by Alderman Hayes, first by Alderman Florian. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.